Hi! In today's episode, I'm going to share with you just how taking a coaching leadership style can have massive benefits, not just for your organization, but for you personally too. Stick around, as some of these benefits might be just a bit bigger than you think. Welcome to Coaching with Chris. Well, as I film this, the COVID pandemic is still biting really hard. It's biting business hard, it's biting our communities hard, and we're getting through it, but we're not through it yet. It's been really interesting to see how different organizations have responded with this, and how some organizations are kind of in survival mode. We have to just get through this. And other organizations are more seeing new opportunities, new areas to actually expand and develop. And I guess what's most important is that your organization has at its core a foundation of being able to thrive, enabling people to make the decisions they need to make and be innovative and creative where they need to be. And one of the things that I'm seeing is that the organizations that have a coaching culture are the ones that really are able to do this. Now, before you kind of roll your eyes and maybe turn off at the thought of coaching culture and go, look, that's something that HR do, that's that sort of fluffy stuff I've heard about. I want to jump over to the whiteboard and I want to share with you some hard facts and evidence and numbers that will hopefully help you think and realize that coaching actually is one of the most overlooked areas for businesses to really improve. We might spend lots of money on things like process improvement and Six Sigma, but some of the numbers at play here are pretty big numbers, pretty big returns. So let's get over there and have a bit of a look at that. Okay, I'd like to introduce you to two guys, Jack Zenger and Joseph Folkman, who over the last 15 or 20 years have done some of the most remarkable research into what is it about leaders that makes them most effective and has that flow on to having an impact on an organization's performance. And they went around about it probably in the reverse way that a lot of people have done this. They looked at all the most successful organizations and they worked back and said, well, what is it that leaders are doing in these organizations and how do we kind of codify that in a way? And they published a book many years ago called The Extraordinary Leader. And I'll put links below to both the book and their extensive research that they did. And they've got a database of over 1.5 million leaders now. So this is serious stuff. It's global. It's all countries around the world. And one of the things that they found, which was most fascinating, was that leaders who are both more effective coaches and coach have a big impact on the people that work for them and the organizations that they work in. And that's some of the stuff I just want to share with you now. So here's the first graph that I want you to take a look at. Along the bottom, we've got coaching effectiveness as a leader. So this is on the right-hand side, leaders that are very effective coaches and coach. And on the left-hand side, leaders that don't coach that well. And what we've got here on the other axis is the level of employee engagement or employee commitment, which is something we're always really interested in as an organization, because we know that employees that are much more engaged, they work harder, they do amazing things, they produce much better results. And look at the correlation here. So on the right hand side, where you've got leaders who are really effective coaches in the 90th percentile, so the top 10% leaders that are coaches, look at the correlation between how committed and engaged their employees are and contrast that to the left-hand side where you've got leaders who don't coach and how not committed and engaged their employees are. That's interesting. Okay, this next graph I think is even more interesting because this is really showing productivity, or how much an employee is willing to go the extra mile to get stuff done, to work that extra bit harder, something that's kind of gold dust in an organization. And again, look at the difference here. Employees that are coaching and are able to coach on the right hand side have employees who are so much more likely to go the extra mile, so much more likely to be more productive Then on the left-hand side, where you've got coaches or leaders who aren't coaching, their levels of employees who will do that is significantly lower. So imagine that. You could focus on something here, your own leadership style as a coach, and get much more out of your team. There's got to be something in that. That's interesting stuff too, right? And the third graph I just want to show you is about employee retention. Retaining your best talent is one of the big challenges that we have in organizations. And again, you can see from the graph here that leaders that coach, they're much more likely to hold on to their employees. So this is showing how likely I am to quit or thinking about quitting as an organization. And employees that have leaders that are great coaches are much less likely to think about quitting their organization, because guess what? They're working on great stuff. They're engaged in what they do, and they're getting something out of it. They're getting something out of that. And the other person I'd like to introduce you to is a lady called Liz Wiseman. Liz has written a book called The Multiplier Effect, which is a wonderful read about leadership. And this is based on extensive research that she did over a number of years. And she looked at 48 different leadership behaviors to see which of those had the most impact on an employee's organization. And she found that there were some specific behaviors that meant leaders had twice the effect of performance on their team. So their teams performed twice as well as other teams or other leaders that didn't show these behaviors. And she basically classified leaders into two types. One was the multiplier leader, who has a multiplier effect. They're the kind of person, when they go in the room, light bulbs go off, people feel that they're inspired to get off and get on with other things and try new stuff without fear of failure. And then the other type of leader is the diminisher. So the diminisher is someone that feels they need to have all the answers. They want to be the center of attention. They're the smartest person in the room. And guess what? It was the multiplier leader that has the biggest impact on performance. And when you break that down, the main behaviors that multiplier leaders show are listening, coaching, intellectual curiosity, and the ability to challenge people around them. You know what? They are all absolute coaching capabilities. So again, a lovely piece of research, and I'll put the links below for that one. Definitely worth checking out. And I've seen this with my own eyes too. I've recently been working with an organisation who have a contact centre environment. Now, a contact centre environment is a very challenging environment to work in and lead in. It's an environment that's measured to death, basically. They have KPIs coming out their ears. It's all about productivity and performance and making fine-tuning around people to do things faster or quicker or more effectively. We ran a program there on building leaders' coaching capability, and wow, we saw some incredible results, ranging from how do I reduce the amount of time I spend on a call? They call it average handling time. We saw reductions there that they haven't been able to achieve before. We saw great improvements in employee engagement. So a lot of the research that we're seeing here played out into what I think is one of the most challenging work environments. And I've also seen in another organisation an internal function, actually. So this isn't always about directly customer facing organizations. I worked with an organization where they went through massive change. They actually were an internal function. They cut down the number of employees they had to become much more efficient and effective. So big time of change. But they took a coaching approach to this. They really involved everyone in it. We worked with their leaders on how to do that. And even though they went through a massive period of change over about 6 to 9 months, believe it or not, their employee engagement went up significantly. And their internal customers, who they measure their satisfaction, their engagement, that went up as well. Now, bearing in mind that this is at a time where they're becoming much more efficient and cutting numbers, that's an interesting thing. So imagine that in your organization, if you could go through significant change and transformation, but actually improve employee engagement at that time. This is what's possible if you have a coaching culture and if you have leaders who are taking a coaching style and approach. But there's something bigger at play here, and that's what's in it for me as a leader. And I reckon you got basically two options here. You can either be the one who has all the answers, the one that is solving everyone else's problems, the one that people have to come to get stuff done, to solve things. By the way, that can be incredibly hard work, very, very stressful, and probably not sustainable. Or do you want to be the one that enables other people to find out how to do stuff for themselves? The one that encourages people to get out of their comfort zone, to do things that they actually thought probably wasn't even possible. And you know what? That second option is so much more fun. It's really, that's how you get great work done for yourself and for the organisation as well. So have a think about which of those spaces you're more at the moment. Are you the bottleneck in your team, in your organisation, where people kind of have to come to you? Or actually you're the one that genuinely gets out of the way, enables your team to do things they didn't think they could do? If you want to be more of the latter, then coaching style and approach is really the approach that I'd recommend you consider. So there we have it. From a business perspective, we can see that coaching and having leaders who coach really well can have a big impact on the performance of your organization. Whether that's productivity, employee engagement, retention, innovation, there's some really big benefits to be had there. And often coaching isn't seen as the first port of call to get some performance gains like that, when it absolutely should be. But the really big benefit here is for you as a leader, and helping you focus on the things that you really want to focus on getting the most out of your role and doing really great work. I guess the question is, how do I become an effective coach as a leader? And that's what this channel is really focused on. We're going to be showing you how to develop your coaching capability, your skills and mindsets, and how to really work on that through a program. So I really love you to subscribe to the channel so you get to see the videos that we're putting up there, and click on the bell notification so you get notified of those videos. And I hope to see you really soon.